So we start with The Spectator, because they did a questionnaire, what's the naughtiest thing you've ever done, to the Tory candidates for the leadership race. So, and of course, this comes down to that basically bad moment for Theresa May. I think we'll have a look at this.
What's the naughtiest thing you ever did?
Oh, goodness me. Well, I suppose gosh, do you know, I'm not quite sure.
Well, there must have been a moment.
Nobody's ever perfectly behaved, are they? I mean, you know, I have to confess, when me and my friends sort of used to run through the fields of wheat, the farmers weren't too pleased about that.
Save you wrecking fields near the vicarage. That was not the naughtiest thing you ever did, Prime Minister.
Well, I can't.
Goodness, what a record.
I mean, I think that was game over at that point for her.
She also didn't even have the word, the gumption to put the word naked at the end of that.
You're very funny.
You're a dreadful.
You are very funny, Aisha.
You are a dreadful person.
That's so funny. OK, so so you'd think if you were running for the Tory leadership, you would be ready for that question, right? So let's have a look at what they said. There were 4 candidates left in the race. James cleverly has let it all hang out, because I don't know how this is going to go down with the Tory members, who are aged 72 on average. He's watched online porn. Next one, Jenrick. I was quite naughty as a child. After a few too many drinks as a teenager, I accepted a bet to climb the Christmas tree in Wolverhampton. It did not end well. OK, that's fair enough. Badenoch, I think, is probably out of the race now, because she says, I can't tell you. That's poor. And lastly, this is the one we've got to focus on. Tom Tugendhat, I invaded a country once. It was a few years ago, 2003. I was part of the invading army in Iraq. I don't know if it's appropriate to make a joke about that, Geoffrey. I mean, about 500,000 people died.
That one didn't work for me. Actually, none of them work for me.
Yeah, well, it's a hard old question. What do you think of the Tugendhat answer there?
Really, really in bad taste, particularly with everything that's going on in the Middle East just now, and just tone deaf, to be honest. Really tone deaf.
So there's Tom Tugendhat. I was talking to somebody who knows him well a few days ago, and who was also a serving soldier, who said Tugendhat was not, I mean, that suggests he was in the infantry or something, or he was fighting. They said he was in the maps room. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but he did give the impression that he was a boot on the ground.
But I think the strange thing about Tom Tugendhat is that, I've had great admiration for him before, very knowledgeable on military issues and geopolitics, and seemed quite sort of sensible. But he does kind of swither a bit, and I think this is him trying to be sort of laddie and controversial. And I just think when you look at Iraq and you look at what's happened in the Middle East and you look at the fallout from Iraq and everything else that happened, you just think, mate, that's not a good thing to be trying to laugh about.
Yeah. So he was an intelligence officer, so if there's uncertainty about what he was doing, that's because I presume he has to keep lying about it. Can
we ask Aisha what's the weirdest thing she's ever done? I can't wait.
My press spokesperson has no further comment at this stage.
I think we can let you off that. Although, if you were a Tory leadership candidate,
as I am,
you've got to have an answer to this, and you can't say I was running through fields of wheat, because that's obviously a disaster.
Right.
You really can't go all out and say I have an online porn habit or whatever. So you've got to be somewhere between the two, and it's actually quite well.
I'd have stolen the word running for the worst thing I've ever done. Oxford and Cambridge versus Harvard and Yale. Yale and Harvard hate each other more than Oxford and Cambridge. And the Yale coach whispered in my ear that the guy who was likely to beat me, and he would have killed me, had a leg injury, and he wasn't fully sure it was. So I watched him running down the side of the track, and I went over and said, "Have you had a recent injury?" And he said, yes, the right leg? Yes, he said. Do it again, yeah. Yes, I can see. Never got to the start. He never got to
I'm not sure
I won
that's
the race.
Worst.
He never got to the start.
Okay. And the idea
what about you?
The worst thing Geoffrey's ever done is that. I don't think
I was like, yeah, right.
So, Geoffrey. No, I saw when our friend Michael Crick did a big number on you. I remember you did some kind of a full start thing where he had some black and white footage of Geoffrey doing a serious race, because you're a proper runner, and you did a full start every single time. It was brilliant.
It was pathetic.
All right, we've got a lot to choose from. Let's just say, go on, you've had time to think now.
Honestly, I'm not telling you. Absolutely not.
All right.
Absolutely
Next
not.
time you're in, okay?
Okay.
I'll give you a month.
Privately.
2 weeks to
It's
think.
interesting, really. You know, they've made this woman a baroness in the Lords. She's got this reputation of having a wonderful brain. And you ask her a simple question, and she can't
She's a
answer.
politician.
I'm a
Gotta be careful.
politician. I'm a politician.
She was a
What?
comedian, now she's a politician.
Yeah.
Or is it the other way
No.
around?
Both.
No.
The cigarette paper between the two.
What, she doesn't know what she is.
No, but listen, you're both in the House of Lords, so I'm not going to pull rank on either of you. Warsi, we must talk about her. So Britain's first Muslim cabinet minister has quit the Tories. And it's a really strange story, this. So she's the first thing you hear is, oh my goodness, she's quit the Conservative Party. She's in the House of Lords as well. So we're 3 Lords. But then we hear the Conservatives were investigating her for what is called divisive language. I've literally never heard of that being a crime in politics, because in that case, you're all busted. What's going on here?
So I think the Conservatives have been looking for an excuse to sort of kick out Saida Warsi because she has been very critical, and I think rightly so, about the direction of the Conservative Party. I think she's a huge asset to the Conservative Party, a sort of self-made woman. She's very fiscally conservative. She's very socially conservative as well. She and her family have made a really good life for themselves here. I think she's a brilliant sort of person to be associated with the Conservative Party. She's Muslim, she's outspoken, she's a capitalist, she believes in patriotism, her family has a strong military
She's been
connection.
in here, by the way, so
she's
yeah.
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And very conservative. People think, she's very conservative in how she thinks about the economy and state and all that kind of thing. But she has called out Islamophobia in the Conservative Party. And they've been looking for an excuse. There was a case involving a woman who held up a placard with the word coconut, referring to senior Asian politicians who were conservative. She got taken to court. Nothing happened in court. Saida Warsi made a joke about it. And the Conservative Party investigating her about it.
That coconut case, I haven't looked at it properly, but there was so much on social media about it, about the campaign to get this woman acquitted, which she was, and so it's a weird one, Jeffrey. I suppose that the heart of it is whether the Conservative Party has a problem with Muslims.
It's whether any party has a problem in this modern age in saying what you really think.
Divisive language.
For example, I am against Netanyahu. I'm not against Jews or Israel. And you've got to be so careful nowadays how you word anything without someone telling you.
I've just been cancelled. I've literally just, my free speech has literally been...
It did happen last time you was in as well, by the way.
But just on that point, I think that's a diversionary thing. Look, they've picked on her for this.
Yeah.
Whereas you've had Suella Braverman in the past and other people saying absolutely kind of outrageous things. Boris Johnson called Muslim women looking like letterboxes and bank robbers. Suella Braverman said incredibly divisive things about sort of migrants, saying, invasions and things like that. So they're picking and choosing when to apply their censoring.
And they're not on your side doing exactly the same thing. I mean, we're all suffering.
We just because we're taking a bit of time here on the Conservatives, because obviously there's a lot of broiling and roiling going on here. The person I spoke to about the leadership contest, who was a former MP, said, something. He said he's a mate of Tugendhat's, who's supposedly centre of the party, right? He said something weird has gone on with him. He's now come out in favour of leaving the European Court of Human Rights, and he says he doesn't believe in climate change anymore. And the answer is that, you know this so well, Jeffrey, to be the next Tory leader, you have to basically be the one who most reminds the members of Margaret Thatcher. That's fundamentally it.
Or Nigel Farage.
There's two problems here. One, you start off with 6, you come down to 4, decided by members of Parliament. You then, next weekend, or this weekend, we're deciding coming down to 2, decided by members of Parliament.
Yeah.
Then they go to the country, and the country, members of the associations are by nature fairly right-wing. So you're going to see the speeches switch yet again. And it's no different in the Labour Party.
No, well...
because the unions play a massive role.
Actually, that's changed now, Jeffrey. Get your facts right. The unions vote has actually
changed now.
Well, they're not going to have a new leader for a while.
And it's one member, one vote. But what's interesting is that the sort of rumours swirling around is that all the candidates are trying to make sure that Kemi Badenoch doesn't get to the final two because they think she will be really popular with the members who are way more right-wing.
I think you're right, and I think actually, having made a joke earlier about her being out of the race, I think she's probably looks like she's going to win it, and I think she's the one, if I was Labour, that I'd be most worried about as well.